Hey, Carlos.
Hey, what's going on? Fancy. I don't know what to call you on this. Fancy or I just call you Andres most of the time.
Yeah. It's fine either way. The fancy Avenger.
Yeah, yes. You're the fancy Avenger.
Exactly.
The Spanish version.
Right.
If you go to Madrid and watch it, you're like one of the Avengers. That's fun. We would just show up at the end.
Yeah.
When like Spider-Man shows up at the last second.
Yeah, they didn't have any Hispanic superheroes until recently.
Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle.
Oh my God, my dad said he went and saw it, and there's just Mexicans everywhere.
Right,
talking.
You want to see the representation matters, but
there's also Miguel Pena in Ant-Man, but he doesn't really have superpowers.
Michael Pena.
Not Miguel Pena.
Miguel Pena.
Skeleton.
Michael Pena. He has a great.
I'm gonna call him Miguel Pena. I'm sticking with it.
He's funny. I liked him in Observe and Report with Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
Oh yeah.
Oh no,
he's an awesome actor.
So dark.
Welcome to another episode of SOS VHS. Today, Carlos and I are discussing one of the biggest movies of all time, Avengers Endgame. Are you an MCU fan?
I am. I'm not super into like the Disney Plus shows.
Right, the original saga.
Exactly, but Iron Man came out in 2007. I had just moved to LA.
Yeah.
I remember when it came out, like that weekend, like that's when Variety still came out. So you would like read like the numbers on Monday.
I was in New York. I was in school. It blew my mind. I thought it was like also Jon Favreau, who I have followed my whole life. You know, someone that I admire as an actor and more in the comedy space.
Elf even was.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was always doing. I mean, he was always very talented, but more in the comedy space. Mm-hmm. And then he came out with one of the biggest action movies.
It's so cool. Like,
and I think the story that I remember reading at that time was like Robert Downey Jr. was chasing this role.
And I didn't know that.
And I thought that's the best decision the whole MCU have done was casting him as Iron Man.
You know what's funny is I had a friend who was like. It was between him, Chris Evans, and I forget the third who would have been Captain America.
Yeah.
And like he was all over the news that morning. His name was Michael Cassidy. He's famous for being on a show called The OC.
Right.
And he got on The OC because he didn't get Superman a couple years earlier. It was between him and the other guy that went nowhere. Right.
That's crazy, you know, like how much your life could have changed. Nobody knew who Chris Evans was before.
Did some small things. Yeah.
Right.
Like my little sister Carolina had a big crush on him, and that's how I knew who he was.
Right.
But
Robert Downey was already pretty big. It was just his comeback, I guess, to the mainstream.
I was obsessed with him my whole life. My mom really liked him. Like she was always like, it's okay that he went to jail. He's struggling.
Right.
Like I think she saw a little bit of me in him or something, like this struggling guy or something. And like
wants to be in this business.
Yeah, I always had like this empathy for him, and I love RDJ because I saw now maybe a couple of months ago that he just lives in Malibu and like hangs out with goats and dogs and all these things, and he married a producer, and like he didn't, that which seems like humble for Hollywood.
Right. No, I always like him. I think he made that movie, the biography of Chaplin, and I think he was so good in it. But then when he was cast as Iron Man, I thought, okay, well, the whole theme made sense. I like Iron Man, the comic book. It was one of those off comic books. You know, my brother was into Spider-Man and the kind of like a main.
Wait, the Ultimates? The Mark Miller ones?
Yeah.
Because I read those after the Avengers, because I read that a lot of the Avengers or the MCU is based off of those. I think it's Mark Miller who did Kick-Ass, right?
Yeah, he did Kick-Ass, but I had tons of, I don't remember the writers, but growing up, I read Iron Man. It was kind of like a smaller character, obviously, compared to Spider-Man. But getting the whole MCU around him was a great idea. And then I think his performance was awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't love him like in all the movies. I think eventually he becomes a little more like of a kind of like gimmicky, ticky.
But isn't that the writing's fault? That's what's their name? Like, who wrote these movies? Whedon?
Joss Whedon? I think he did the first Avengers and the Age of Ultron.
Okay.
And he's a little more, cheeky.
And it's very, to me, that sense of humor. Okay, so here's an example in Endgame. When the Hulk sees his former self in New York, going crazy,
Yeah.
and the new self, having evolved a little bit, is embarrassed, so he goes and tries to emulate it, and he's like, scary.
Yeah.
And he does that, and I'm like, that's such like a 2010s joke where you're like you're above the masculinity and the losing control, so you think you're better than it instead of having empathy for it. I don't know, it's just like an outdated joke, and honestly half the times it's written by people who would later on be canceled, which I
That's so
love.
funny. Yeah. But
The writers were Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely
for Endgame.
for Endgame.
Mark something. No, Mark.
I don't know. Who directed Endgame?
The Russo brothers.
Oh, that's right.
And-
After Lego.
And they've done they did Civil War.
love Civil War.
Winter Soldier, Civil War, and then
Okay.
the Infinity Wars and Endgame as a I guess like a big one movie
Yeah, of
in
course.
2 parts. And I think they did a great job. I never think of the MCU as a director's medium. I think it's a producer's and a writer's medium. They all look pretty similar. They action. I mean, I think they did a great job with it, but I think it's the writing, and these writers and the Russo brothers have worked together after, and they have not been able. They did The Gray Man. And,
Yeah, the Gray Man, which they were probably just like, do whatever you want.
right. And it doesn't even like get close to anything that they did here. But I think.
Yeah, Christopher Marcus, Andreas. He did Gray Man. He did Infinity War. He did Endgame.
Yeah.
So him and the Russo brothers.
So this guy just gets rich. Like
It's a writing. It's interesting. It's a writing couple. I mean, a writing team and a writing and a directing team for these movies. And also they they were successful. So the writers did Arrested Development.
Okay.
And I think they won an Emmy for it.
Mm-hmm.
And they did smaller movies before getting here. I think Winter Soldier was such a big change in the MCU.
I liked it a lot.
Winter Soldier is one of my favorites.
Yes,
Right.
it's like a spy movie, right? Yeah, it's like
and visually, like, I think. So I love Iron Man. I think then the movies lose a little bit of steam. It is it's a 10-year journey, right?
Yeah.
It's 22 movies.
Yeah.
To Endgame, and I think it plays with patience to get there, which is I think what they did good versus the DC. Tried to rush all of that. They introduced each character slowly. And the first Thor, I have I didn't like it that much. I think it visually is also very
They get
ugly.
worse and worse too.
So it goes like that. And then the first Avengers, I think, brings everybody together in a good way. But Winter Soldier, Civil War, those movies were, I think, better. And after that, the Infinity Stones and Endgame, I thought they were fantastic in that world.
That was a lot for me to like understand though. Like after like Civil War and those, I was like, who are these stones? Like who's this guy? Thanos that's always at the end of the other movies. It was a little complicated. Even Endgame, like I followed the MCU pretty closely. Like there were parts where I was like legitimately confused.
Because if you think about it, these movies, they have 40 characters. I don't know. It's like 40 short films. You have
it's like a
each
Bollywood
character
movie.
for 10 minutes and that's it. So I thought Infinity Wars was very efficient. I thought it was like a perfect script in terms of like, how do I tell this massive story and give each character an arc, and get to the plot, and also it's told a little bit from the perspective of the bad guy, so the bad guy kind of has dimension. Why
does Thanos have a shirt on at one point?
It has an armor.
Yeah, but like when they catch him at the beginning, like it looks like he's living at Shrek's house.
Right. He looks a little bit like a Shrek.
Yeah, and I'm like, so Thanos has clothes from where?
I think like
And cue the Smash Mouth song.
Yeah.
Yes.
That movie.
Somebody once told me.
But I think Endgame for me, I think is my favorite of the whole piece because it's a little more of it's messier. It's not, it's so slow the beginning, but we have invested 10 years in knowing these characters, and it becomes a character piece. It really doesn't have that much action if you think about it. Like they have the big battle at the end, which kind of like is like, okay, whatever. It is more like the time heist is awesome and revisiting.
I like that a lot.
But it's playing, I think, someone who is not into the MCU can understand the basic plot, but it definitely will be confused. It's for the fans, you know, like someone who knows everything and how everything is interconnected. Yeah. And they're wrapping it up is like, you know, the end of both Captain America and Iron Man. Also, like Natasha dies.
The time heist really makes it, though. Like, that's such a cool idea. Like, the Avengers have teams and they go back to different parts in time. Like, to me, I'm like, oh, that's how they got. That's the heart of the script. That's what they were pitching. Yeah, that's what they were like hired to write. Like,
and they revisit like iconic moments in all these 10 years, awesome. Right? So they go to the first attack in New York from the first Avengers. That's the 2012. Then they go to the Age of Ultron Avengers to tackle the other thing.
I liked Age of Ultron. It was pretty cool. Like the thing falls. It's a whole
thing. It's very like convoluted plot wise.
Yeah, it's not like the best one, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I mean, it's a fun universe. But I think Endgame has the ability for each character to have a little bit of an heroic moment and a very heartfelt one. Is one of those movies that you kind of like get sad.
Oh yeah.
You know, I guess if you follow closely, you know, Iron Man is this or Tony Stark is this character who's flashy, selfish.
In space at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm saying like how he's introduced in the beginning of the saga, and then you know in the first Avengers they have this conversation with Captain America where he said like, you know, you're not the guy who would sacrifice for anything, you know, and
good storytelling,
yeah, and it's like, oh, you're waiting like so many years to flip the script, and also for this guy who's Captain America who's like this flawless, like very like one note, now has to like, you know, ends up having a life and
which I love because I like
really smart.
I didn't like Captain America at first. I was like, he's so like one dimensional.
Right.
He's like moral in like an old fashioned way. Like, does he even like black people? Like, who is this guy?
Well, it's very, you know. It's
at the end, you know, he does because Anthony Mackie gets the
shield. But it's true, like he's a guy. I mean, even the comic book, right? It's a comic book from the 40s. He's fighting Nazis. It's a very called Captain America. It's a very national.
I wish that we had him today. We could use him today.
Yeah, definitely.
To Afghanistan and stuff.
You could send it over.
Yeah, we won't say the other ones.
But yeah, I think I agree. It's one of those characters. He's too good. He's like, you know.
I don't like I've never liked characters like that. So I liked his evolution throughout the movies where he does struggle. He makes the wrong decision. I love that he lives his life in the end.
Right.
And the music that plays is, I mean, like, what a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
It's funny because the Avengers movies, they always start like they're going to be really good movies.
Yeah.
Like, even like the way this starts with Hawkeye, like with his family, I love cold opens.
Absolutely.
Quiet cold opens where you're just entering the world, no explanation, and it starts like an Oscar-winning movie or something.
It's like a drama, and actually, this movie has a lot of drama, big drama moments. And again, another writing decision that I think is genius. And I don't know if this is the writers, if this is like comes from Kevin Feige. What's his last name? How do you say it?
Feige. How do you say it?
Kevin,
no idea. Don't.
He's the biggest producer in Hollywood.
It sounds like a dangerous name to pronounce.
But anyway, I think it's a great decision to start the movie 5 years after the other one.
Yes.
So it lets Thanos kill half of the world's population, and 5 years later, like with time, it becomes real. You know, if the movie had started just the moment the other one ended, like you wouldn't feel the effects, but everybody's depressed. Everybody has changed a lot.
Isn't that technically 2023?
Yeah, and we're catching up to
Oh yeah,
we are right now in 2023.
So we're in the Endgame year, right?
We're in the Endgame, which I think is the last.
So Spider-Man takes place in 2025 or something?
No, because the Spider-Man. I think the second Spider-Man, is that Away From Home or whatever?
Yeah, no, it's Far From Home, right?
Or Far From Home.
Because he goes to Italy?
that one comes the same year. That's the movie that comes on the same year. You know, it's Avengers Endgame ends here, and is the next movie. Which
it doesn't happen 5 years. Oh, of course not.
But
yeah.
But then I think after that, Spider-Man was a huge movie. But after that, I think the whole MCU needs a revamping. You know, like
I love the last Spider-Man.
The
No Way Home.
No Way Home. Yeah,
it was so good.
It's
we got to do that movie. I love that movie.
It's a fun movie, but I think in terms of the MCU and the multiverse, and every movie is getting very convoluted. Because if you think of the first Iron Man, it takes place in the real world. It's our world. He's just going to war. It's like
the fight is in downtown LA.
Right. And now, if you see the movies today, they feel like we are in a complete different universe. You know, it doesn't feel real.
That's why the space stuff like messes with me. Like, I can't stand Thanos' daughter.
Gamora or
no, not
Nebula?
Gamora. I like Gamora. The other
Nebula.
One. Yeah, I'm like, whatever with Nebula. She's always like, she has so many scenes. I'm like, get out of here. I don't understand your stuff.
This is the best Nebula, I think. Like Endgame. If you don't like her here,
I was
like her anywhere.
I was fast forwarding her scenes. I was so not into Nebula. I like Guardians. Oh, you know what? Guardians of the Galaxy are like my favorite MCU movies.
Because they're so fun and they don't take themselves seriously. Yeah, I think
the second one is incredible.
The Volume 2, yeah.
Kurt Russell.
Really good. I like the first one a lot, and also in this movie you get to revisit that first moment that was awesome in the credit sequence in the first one, but now from a less flattering perspective. And I think that's why this movie is so fun to watch. Is like you have invested so much in all these characters, and you know those scenes.
Yeah.
And revisiting.
I forgot about those
characters.
What a cool idea.
Yeah, I thought that's a genius idea. What do you think of?
I wish we could do that with like Bad Friends or
like a parallel.
Yeah, we go back
in time.
Yeah, we just watch ourselves at this old studio and stuff.
Right. Because, well, I was gonna ask you something else, but the good thing about this movie is that when they lay out the time travel rules, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're different. Yeah,
it's pretty simple. Then they betray these rules. Not as much in this movie, or like, I mean, I never get hung up in the mechanics of time travel, because if not, I would not enjoy any movie, you know.
Yeah, and it's some guy by the beach writing it.
And the paradoxes are always there, but I think they betray them in the newer stuff with Loki and all of that. But the idea that you cannot change the past is a great idea, because then you don't.
I love it.
You know, you can do certain things, but you cannot change what happened.
It's less messy.
Yeah,
totally. And you know what? It made sense to me, because I was like, oh, if you go back in the past, that's your future.
That's your future, and that's so.
Like, fucking Back to the Future. I was like, obviously,
right.
So Back to the Future was a lie.
It was a lie.
So
Endgame got it right.
I think Endgame has at least I thought it was a really interesting way of dealing with all of that stuff. You know, and even when it's explained that if you take the Infinity Stones now, then you're creating these other lines, you know, that you have to return them and close that loop. I thought, okay, it's a very clean way of dealing with time traveling. But I was going to ask you something. So the MCU changed movies forever, and not as much as the filmmaking style, but also the industry. I think now there's no other movies that really can compete. And I think all the big filmmakers are mad, right? Like, so Scorsese and Spielberg and Lucas, they think like this, that this is not cinema. What do you think?
I think that when these movies were coming out and they were hitting their peak, like even SNL, like when Guardians came out, like they did a sketch being like, MCU can't lose, because like no one really thought Guardians would like crush it like it did.
Yeah.
And I think it's the last time in Hollywood where like these like, honestly, where these like white dudes just like they come out of Sundance or whatever and they immediately get into like Jurassic World, the MCU, all these movies.
Right.
So I like this time. Like I think, but I will say it's hard to explain. I guess it's not the 70s or the 90s anymore. And we just had to get used to it. I did like the movies for the most part. I liked most of them and I enjoyed them as like popcorn movies. But I did realize around 2015, I was like, no good movies come out anymore.
Carlos, I'm gonna kill you.
Oh no.
Well, remember when we were in Vegas and you got me so hooked up into gambling, sports gambling?
I did.
So now I can do it from my phone.
Oh, whoa. Can I?
You can too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so thanks to MyBookie, who is now sponsoring the show. Thank you, MyBookie. We can place bets on our phones.
That's insane. Skip the arguments with Uncle Dave on Thanksgiving and focus on what really matters. Good food, boosted odds, and hitting those Turkey Day parlays.
Just picture this. You're just not watching games, but turning every second into a potential win. With MyBookie, you can stream the games and live bet them and turn any game day into a payday.
That sounds so nice because Texas is playing Texas Tech the day after Thanksgiving.
Right.
And there's some Thanksgiving games, and I don't want to deal with like talking about politics or the freeway getting on fire in LA.
I know, I don't even care about Thanksgiving, but the games are cool.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You and I are going to be texting and betting. Ready to up your game? Sign up today and make your first deposit with promo code SOS for a sweet deposit bonus up to $1,000.
That's promo code SOS to claim your bonus. This isn't just a promo code. It's your secret weapon to get the extra edge on the house. The house doesn't always win now.
Right.
The best part is you don't need to be a sports whiz to win
Obviously.
at MyBookie. Yeah. You can cash in on everything from politics to your favorite shows and then some.
Absolutely. You can bet on anything, and that's so much fun. So now with MyBookie, you can bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Visit mybookie.website/join with SOS or look for the link in the description below and use the code SOS for 10% cash bonus up to $200.
That's a one-time rollover with a $45 minimum deposit.
So this is the thing I say to people with like Marvel movies or movies that are just fun to watch. Is that it's kind of like having junk food, something easy to reach for, and you enjoy it, right? Like a candy bar or something like that. But the real good movies, like The Godfather, right? Long 3-hour movie. That's kind of like eating broccoli, and you're like, all right, I'm getting into it. But then you're better for it, and it has a lasting impression. It's healthier, you know,
I feel that way
for
all
your
the
movie
time.
taste. But this is like, it's like junk food, and you just treat it as so like, hey, it's still fun. It is what it is. It has that certain nutritional value, but it's still good. It's just different good.
It feels good to me though, because I watch like reality TV, and that feels like real junk food.
Right. I think they're above junk food in terms of filmmaking, in terms of movies. But the problem that I have with this is, and if we go with the metaphor of food, is that that's the only restaurant in town. You know, that's to me what's the problem.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Is that I don't mind them. I mind that what are the other movies, you know? Because they're so popular, they're so huge.
No More Speed or Independence Day, like these original ideas that are like kind of cool. There's like one like unique thing about it.
All IP based on something, and it has to be this scale, you know, or the tiny indies. That's the world that I've been in, you know, trying to make the $1-2 million movies, but the $20 million movies are one in a blue moon because you compete with these massive temple movies.
Don't you think you could either be depressed about it and like be upset about it, or you could just go watch the Avengers? You know, right? That's what I feel like. It's like I'll just go watch it because Robert Downey Jr. is in it. You know?
No, I'm not mad the same way that Spielberg or Scorsese is mad, but I think like my 20-year-old me is super happy with these movies. You know?
Yeah.
I love the comic books growing up. I think anyone, if you are 14 to 30, it's amazing. But as you start getting a little older too, you want to see other things. As my, you know, that when we talk about the 70s, you know, the type of more serious movies or movies that tackle other themes are not there.
I'm in acceptance, it feels like.
Right. Okay.
I really am. Like
that this is new Hollywood, this is what it is.
Yeah, what are you gonna like? I think I just read so much criticism and I heard the arguments against it so much, and like this goes back to my dad. He likes these movies a lot, and he's someone who always instilled in me in regards to show business, which is like, well, what are you fucking doing, Carlos?
Yeah.
Like, you think, like, you know what I mean? Like, you do better than go make the Avengers and make it better then. It's like, okay, well, I probably can't do that.
Right.
You know? So it's like, I try and give all these movies a chance. Like,
yeah,
we were very against shitting on movies in my house.
I agree. And I'm always very benevolent with any sort of movie. I even a movie that I dislike or that I think is shitty. That is not, I know how much it takes to make a movie, but as a philosophy of production, as a Hollywood take on the industry, it's so suffocating. Meaning, like, they only make these movies. I feel also there's a little bit of fatigue. I think the creative team who design, let's call it the Infinity Saga, know, the from Iron Man to Endgame was brilliant.
Yeah.
I think now is losing a little bit of steam. It's like 10 years of this. I mean, like now, whatever, 14, 15 years of this. And we're seeing the same movie again and again and again and again. And I think people are going to
imagine being Kumail.
Yeah.
You work for like 18 months. You change the way you look like, which is insane, by the way.
Insane.
But I'm like, if you're in comedy, and like you're just like a goofy, funny guy, it's so obvious to me. It's like, oh, you're changing your body for money and fame. Yeah. Like, that's so dark to me. I'm like, it's not to be healthy. Like, that's not healthy.
Well, that way he could be in a Marvel movie. I mean, a terrible Marvel movie.
I know. Well, that's also the other thing. It's like, did you not read the script? Yeah. Didn't you write these scripts, Kumail? Like, haven't you written a script before? Like,
but I feel like if you have an opportunity to be in one of those movies, nobody's gonna say no.
I wonder though about people in comedy though. I really do. Yeah. Where they're like, you can be in it, but you have to like gain 80 pounds of muscle. I'd be like, come on, man. Like,
I think it was Leo that told. I think it was Timothy Chalamet. Is that
that's true?
He gave him advice to not do any superhero movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because now I see Kumail like doing podcasts and like going back to like these like comedy shows. It's like,
I mean, it's difficult. The reality is Marvel is bigger than its stars. Like, people.
Angelina Jolie was in that movie. Yeah,
right. Yeah. And those are famous people before, right? Like, but I'm saying like someone like Chris Evans. Obviously, everybody knows who he is, but he's not a star of his own right. He's not gonna make a movie and people are gonna see it because it's Chris Evans.
Or Gray Man would have crushed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he just got like secretly married in like Boston or something.
I didn't know that. And I think like, he's a cool guy and he's very smart.
I think he's really cool. Yeah. He's like a Los Feliz dude. And I like, he likes to drink. He dated Jenny Slate back in the day, or maybe only a couple years ago. But so he seems nice.
I just feel like they were in a studio system back in the 20s or 30s. The stars are not what, you don't go to see a movie because Mark Ruffalo is in it, but because the Hulk is in it.
And they ship you to Atlanta and you work in front of a green screen for years.
Yeah.
That's your life.
But
didn't Natalie Portman say she didn't want to do it for a really long time?
Yeah,
they give her like,
and she was I think she's in a couple of the Thor movies, right? And
but in the last Avengers, she does something. She has like one appearance in a movie.
She's like asleep or something.
Yeah,
she has a moment in this movie in Avengers, Endgame, and I think they wrap up everything, all the storyline. Yeah. So I think Natalie Portman is fine, but I don't know. I'm conflicted with this idea because I enjoy the movies. Mm-hmm. I go to see them. I see how happy, everybody is around when you see these movies.
Kids love it. Teenagers love it. Yeah.
But then I feel like, there's no room for anything else. What do you think of the music? You mentioned the music, and it's something interesting because it's Alan Silvestri, who did a lot of like awesome movies, made the music for Avengers Endgame. But I feel because like if I tell you to sing, to remember music from Star Wars or from any Spielberg movie or Harry Potter or whatever, you're gonna remember.
Not from the Avengers though.
But no from any MCU. Like if you think of any,
just that one like famous song when all the Avengers assemble.
Yeah,
there's like
bum 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 bum.
Exactly.
you have that theme in this movie that is pretty cool.
Not the original song. The songs they like buy to put in the movie, I always think are pretty cool.
The songs
the
are
opening.
awesome.
Dear Mr. Fantasy by Traffic.
Right.
Oh, that's my favorite. I think intro when the Marvel comic book intro.
Yeah, I really like.
That's my favorite intro. But
I hate when they try and be funny with it, like with Iron Man 3 when they play like Blue by Eiffel 65.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, just do a normal song, guys.
I think that. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the music and the anthology. I mean, in the universe, I'm happy with Endgame.
I was gonna say the last song that plays, but that's like not like an MCU like original score.
No.
But the music,
the Kings too. When they're going to visit Thor.
Oh, that's right.
That's a great song.
I think James Gunn, had it right with music when he did
Guardians,
and then anything he does, he's such a this is a Tarantino type of like.
Yeah.
Or a Scorsese, he knows music so well.
How much would that be for all the songs in Guardians of the Galaxy? $5 million for all of them?
So much. I have no idea, but probably.
Yeah.
Probably. It's worth it for those type of movies.
Of course.
You're making your little indie movie, you cannot have that.
Oh yeah, just take the money from the studio.
Right.
And do it. Who cares?
Yeah. It's I think they did a good job with that. What's your favorite character in the whole thing? Or the storyline that you like?
Or Endgame?
Or Endgame.
Probably a tie between Iron Man and Tom Holland. Yeah. I love Tom Holland.
In Endgame, he only has this one moment at the very end.
Yeah.
Because
I just love the Spider-Man movies the most. In Endgame, I mean, my favorite character is Iron Man.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's complicated and funny. And I just think he's cool. Isn't Gwyneth Paltrow like another Iron person at the end?
At the very end.
What is that?
Because he made the suit for her,
Yeah.
And I guess he made it one for the daughter just in case they're gonna
she
continue.
can go to space now. It's so weird.
And sell candles.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Like this smells like my space pussy candle.
Exactly.
Or something.
I knew you were gonna go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Robert Downey Jr. does. After the first Iron Man, I think here he's at his best.
Yeah,
he's so good in it. You feel all the emotions, all the.
He's just the best actor ever. I think he might be the best actor of all time, in my opinion. Yeah.
Like
of all time, I think it's Robert Downey Jr.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think he's a great
better than Marlon Brando or Meryl Streep. I really believe that.
Danny Day-Lewis.
Yeah, I really think it's Robert Downey Jr.
Interesting.
I heard that.
Hot take.
I heard that with directors that he's the easiest actor to work with. You just tell him one thing and then he can just go off on it.
Yeah.
That it doesn't take long for him to adjust per take.
I believe him. The only thing I don't like about him, because I read about him, is that he doesn't want to work with smaller movies, first-time directors, things like that.
Oh,
so,
really?
We cannot get him for any of our movies.
Yeah. He won't be in the bottoms of Turtle Island.
Right. But other than that, I think he's an amazing actor, and I think he actually works in this movie. I think the actors do such a good job to make this completely insane movie grounded, like kind of like you feel the emotions. Mm-hmm. I feel like when he takes that final risk, everybody in the audience, I remember, like, you see people cry and people being sad. It's like, wait a second, we're just seeing this so...
I didn't see it in theaters.
You didn't see Endgame in theaters?
No. I saw it on my TV.
Wow.
I rented it, yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw it in the theaters.
Yeah, I saw the other ones in theaters, but this is like one of the only ones I didn't.
Oh, did you see Infinity?
Yeah, I saw all the other ones.
So you didn't want to contribute to the biggest box office of all time?
Yeah, if they had me, it would have been number one over Avatar.
Right.
Yeah. No, I just wasn't. I don't know why I didn't go. I wasn't into it. Even yesterday, I watched the second half on my iPhone.
Interesting.
And I fast forwarded through the Nebula scenes. Like, I had 10 seconds. Yeah, I don't know. I think
person you did. I mean, I think there is that evolution of every character, right? The 5-year. So it's starting from the beginning, right? The idea of like, okay, we're coming in 5 years later.
Yeah.
And everybody has been impacted by this.
Yeah.
Completely different than what they had before. So for Stark is like, yeah, he actually let go and now he will have moved on. He has a family. His life is good.
Yeah, it seems like everything's fine now.
Because he has been stressed out for 20 movies, you know.
Yeah.
He has always been he had these nightmares in Ultron, right? That he will be the end of the Avengers. He would kill everybody, you know.
Yeah.
He would be the only survivor.
Iron Man 3, he's going through like PTSD from New York.
Right. So he has all these issues all the time. But now, and he thinks like he's going to find someone he cannot beat. And he does. Yeah. And then there's no one else. So I guess he can focus on his family. And I think that's cool. And then you have Thor, who actually, you know, he's not doing well. He did like what he wanted to do. Like he completed this task of killing Thanos. Right. But he does it in a way, if you think about it, is like very non-heroic moment.
Oh, I know. Yeah. It's like
right. It's like
cool
rage.
Scene. Yeah, it's a really cool scene. Then you see him and he's just like so depressed.
Right.
He's gaining weight and drinking. Yeah.
Love Fat Thor.
I know. I love Fat Thor.
Yeah, but he's depressed. He's used to winning. He hasn't found anyone he cannot win.
Fat Thor made me a little insecure, guys.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
Because what happens, like he gets somewhere and he's like, he wants like a margarita or something. And then the first thing I did when I got to work today
is the margarita.
Well, no, I grabbed a Coors Light, a Celsius, and a Liquid Death.
Yeah, that's 5 years of solid drinking for Thor. So.
I know.
I told Carlos before this podcast, I said, hey, come do this podcast. There's beer.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
welcome as usual.
That's like the Rocket gets
Thor gets him on the ship.
On the ship. Exactly.
I love Rocket. I call my dog Rocket.
Yeah, I think also they do a good job with the idea of having so many different types of movies, because like I think Guardians of the Galaxy has a tone that's
all
very,
the tones
very
are different.
Similar. I mean, that is so different than Captain America, and putting all together and still makes sense.
That's crazy. Yeah. But you can see it when they play like a Guardians of the Galaxy Kinks like song in it, and that's like, oh, we're in the Guardians like tone
section.
Now.
Yeah, right.
But I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it's
the third one I need to see again. I saw it once.
I think it probably the best MCU movie in a long time. But
oh yeah, of course.
I think I'm like,
it was sad though.
Yeah,
too. I was like, this is really sad, showing Rocket's like origin story. I like cried. I was like, this is like hard to watch. And then I heard another podcast. Excuse me, I think Doughboys, and they were saying the same thing, and I was like, oh, okay, like I'm not the only one.
They play with the animal brutality, like experimentation.
They were saying it was manipulative.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know about that, if it's manipulative, like to like...
I mean, that's the business. Movies are manipulative.
But that was
playing
like...
with your emotions all the time.
But I'm like wondering, is that so on the nose, where they show like a shivering small animal, where it's like... It can't be that manipulative.
Yeah, I liked it. I think it's okay. Nothing has hit me since
emotionally.
Endgame. Yeah, like in terms of like
in the MCU.
Yeah,
okay.
In the MCU.
You're like, I haven't cried since Endgame.
No. I remember the experience of Endgame being like, okay, I don't know how they made this movie. The writing, I thought it was very solid.
Yeah.
After like tight Infinity Stones with all the plot. It's so plotty, and they kind of like super efficiently go through all this stuff. Now we're here.
What year did this come out? 2018? 2019?
So I
think 2018.
I think it's 2017 Infinity Stone and 2018 Endgame, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe we can check. But yeah,
Skeleton. Do they have Wi-Fi on this island?
Yeah. But
calculating with my crystal skull.
But yeah, I think that works so well for me. Like the fact that
2019.
Oh, 2019.
2019. I'm a year divorced.
Yeah.
I'm working at a dog rescue.
Yeah.
Bad Friends is about to come out.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Tiger Belly on Wednesdays, and I'm living with a French family in Hollywood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was making a movie.
Yeah.
In
Spain,
nice. So it was a happy moment. But
the Warriors were good. Yeah. A lot of sports stuff happening then.
You know, the one big thing.
Kobe was fucking alive.
Oh God. One big thing that hit me. Well, the first time I watched it, I hated it, but after watching it last night, after the pandemic, watching it after the pandemic, I really, I'm going to eat that. Watching it after the pandemic, I really kind of connected with this loss. I lost one of my best friends to COVID. I lost my aunt to COVID.
Really?
I did. So the idea of Steve Rogers saying, hey, you know, you got to move on. You know, he's having that group therapy session.
Right.
And that really resonated, especially after the pandemic of like, we're going through this trauma. And I really connected with that emotionally that I didn't connect the first time. So that really did hit me. And I was like, wow, I felt something that I didn't feel, you know, 4 years ago.
Skeleton, do you remember though in the support group that the guy is like talking about him and his boyfriend? And I was like, oh, MCU getting super liberal.
Get it?
Yeah.
And I was like, by the way, Captain America would be not into a gay couple.
He'd be super conservative.
He had time to evolve.
Yeah, he did have time to evolve.
70 years in the eyes.
I feel like he would be like Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, in real life, wouldn't Captain America just have become a senator?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't he just be like, oh,
then there's president.
yeah, he would have been president.
Yeah.
Like, that's what
Especially,
oh man, Captain America is president.
Yeah.
We would have had Space Force before Trump. He would have done Space Force. You know, Space Force is actually doing like good things right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like watching all the nuclear tension and stuff. I'm like, Space Force, pretty cool.
Yeah, they got all these aliens, alien ships.
I feel like we're in Space Force.
We are,
right now.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But okay,
we're on Team Alabama right now. See,
so I think this whole MCU, what has done to movies is they have. So instead of being movies, and I think that's what the criticism from these filmmakers comes to from, is that now it's more like a event movie. It's a theme park movie. You know, it's like it's
Barbie
versus a movie that is a movie. You know, like just. So I don't know. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know what the direction is gonna go to, but I think, as far as a narrative and storytelling, I think they did a really good job. I think it's one of those movies.
That's why they're so successful.
Yeah. I mean, they did it with patience, right? They planned it. You spend time with each character.
They could have been terrible. Look at the Hulk from 2006.
Yeah.
It was just whatever. And obviously Robert Downey Jr. is in the post-credit sequence for that. But like,
right. Yeah. And they have a lot of like those. But the idea that, I don't know, that when they did Ultron, right, they already talk about the Infinity Stones, right? So it's like, wait a second, the plan, the master plan that these guys have is insane.
That is insane. Just secrecy wise, it's insane. That's tradecraft for Marvel itself and the producers there. I mean, I don't understand how they did it. So it's Kevin Feige or whatever. Yeah. And then, like, I don't know how many producers he would have had in, like, the timelines.
I mean, he's the head guy, right? And then he has two lieutenants.
Who are doing the timeline with him.
Who are, I guess, I imagine they have all these writers working with them. But I think they have the task of telling everybody, okay, we want all of these movies to eventually come together. And we want all of this to eventually go there. So let's write so each movie doesn't step on the other movies, but connects and adds on and all of that. And it's so many movies. And then they did that with the TV shows to more success or less success. But the idea that they all fit into this narrative, right? This idea of the...
My guess has always been that at Marvel, that they treat the writers really well. And there's no competitive, fearful culture of being fired. So at Warner Brothers, when they were making the DC movies, before any of them came out in the 2010s, when they were writing them, they would have multiple writing teams write the same script, and then they would like basically fight each other. Like whoever had the best script would go into development. And apparently, like Variety, the Hollywood Reporter, I forget which one, but they did a big write-up about this culture at Warner Brothers and how even for the CEOs, they would put them against each other.
Yeah.
And they were saying that this culture kind of like demolished Warner Brothers' morale, and that's why the DC movies are a little iffy.
Yeah.
But I like them personally, but
I think the problem with the DC world is like, I think they have the best character of all time to me, which is Batman. And Christopher Nolan did that massive rebranding of that character, right? And I think at least the two first movies, Begins and Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, are amazing. I think the third one is not as good, but in any case, he put that statement there, and then they went, seeing what the other guys are doing, and they want to do their own Avengers, right? So the Justice League, and there's no time to introduce all these characters and for us to care about these characters.
No, they do it at the beginning in like
10 seconds or whatever.
I think every character, instead of their own movie, they get like 6 minutes, if that. It's probably more like 4.
Yeah, and therefore to me, like they miss also the Zack Snyder world. To me, is not as interesting. I think he did 300, right? And with 300,
I didn't love 300.
He did the speed changes and all that, and I think people loved it. But then it's like, okay, you already did that. Why do we have to see this in every movie all the time? The making Superman like dark, I don't think it works, because Superman is like Captain America. He's like he's not my favorite. He's not my favorite. He's
Me
like
neither. He's too dorky. He's from like the country. I'm like, whatever with this fucking guy.
Right. And he's too moral, too centered. There's no darkness. So that's why I love Batman, because he's like, he's a tormented guy. He's rich. He's like Tony Stark.
Oh, I know. He rolling up with like 2 girls.
Right.
It's funny. And they're like, I love when and when they're like in the fountain and the Batman Begins. I'm like, oh, that's funny.
Exactly. But he's like, and the Tim Burton Batman also was like that. He's an interesting guy, has his demons.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have superpowers. Like Superman is too good, too invincible, too whatever. But making him dark and killing people and destroying cities, I thought it was a really bad choice.
My theory is that if the DC movies came out today, I think they would do a lot better, because I think that at the time that they came out, they were trying to be different in tone from the Avengers movies, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think at the time, it was the 2010s, the Obama era. I'm convinced that time was okay. Think about like the big,
more positive.
Well, I think it was fake positive. Like we all thought it was positive, and then 2016 happens, and we see how like divided we really are, and that's okay and whatever. But I just think that the sense of humor back then, what's out, The Office, Parks and Rec, the Avengers, all these shows and movies with like irony is like the heart of like the beating heart of their comedic timing. And what I just think that people are over it, and the DC movies had none of that. And I think by this time, people are beyond over that kind of humor.
But following that logic, that would mean that the Flash would have done so good, that and it was one of.
Well, I blame the Flash on that guy, because one, he gets in trouble with the law all the time, and two, that
the actor,
he is terrible. Ezra Miller.
Sorry. I just don't think you are the guy. He is not a hero. He's rubs me the wrong way.
But I think it's a good thing. There's a lot to Google about him. I just feel he's not charismatic enough for me to carry the movie. And thank God they have Michael Keaton to, who wrote his lines though?
No. And it's also the multiverse. When they did it with the Spider-Man, I think they did such a beautiful moment where everybody, it made sense. It's for a minute. When they did it again and again and again, I'm just like over it.
But we are so lucky they did multiverse so we could get Michael Keaton. I just think about Birdman every time now.
Oh, yeah. He's not Batman anymore to you.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Birdman.
Oh.
It's so good.
He's an amazing actor and he is very charismatic. I just feel like that movie didn't do well. I think the tone...
The Flash?
Yeah.
They pulled it from theaters. It did so bad. That's insane.
And it's the same tone. I just feel like they haven't cracked it. I think they need to start over. rebranded. I mean, James Gunn is over there now, head of DC.
Okay, I didn't know that.
They got him this year.
He seems cool. I know he's gotten in trouble and stuff, but I don't know if, I mean, I don't know all the facts or anything, but like, I do like his movies a lot. I know he's kind of like an edgelord or whatever on Twitter or X or whatever, but like,
I haven't followed him that well. I just know him from especially his Guardians of the Galaxy, and then what he did with, what's the show on HBO with John Cena?
Peacemaker?
Peacemaker.
Great show.
It is. It's good.
It's really good.
It's the same tone, you know. It's like kind of like, and then he rebranded
Suicide Squad. I love oh my god, that one is so fucking good.
So I feel like they haven't been super successful, but I think that's what the DC world might look like in the future. That type of tone where it's like comedy,
cutesy,
and yeah.
But I gotta say, like Suicide Squad, the revamped one is really good. Those scripts are good. Like they're tight scripts, they're funny.
Yeah, they have this element which is kind of like what The Boys do and of like
also good.
The ultra violence, sexuality, all of that, and comedy, you know?
But it doesn't feel gratuitous. Like if you had a kid, you wouldn't like close his eyes. You know what I mean?
True, but I'm not sure if it's gonna play as well as what they did with Marvel.
1,000,000%. But with Marvel, it seems like they knew what they were doing. Like
yeah, they can't make an R-rated Marvel movie,
right?
You know, they're not gonna make as much money. They're not gonna make $1 billion in an R-rated.
Well, like on the comics, like the Ultimates, which is kind of like the adult version, of the Avengers, like. Iron Man like says really sexual stuff.
Right.
I don't think he's like that politically correct.
I feel like
Ant-Man rapes
those movies are for older people, you know, like Kick-Ass had that thing of like, okay, it's fun. You know, I always wanted to make a movie with kids where the kids behave like that. I think it's funny in itself, you know? Mm-hmm. So when Kick-Ass, I see kids doing that, it's funny.
What's that movie that came out about those like 3 kids like 4 years ago? They're like bad kids or something. It was the so good. Seth Rogen produced it, I think.
They set the house on fire and all of that.
I don't remember. It was a movie from a couple years ago with like 3 kids.
Yeah, I can't remember it.
Yeah, I forget it too. It's like the kid version of Strays. Like,
I see. No,
it was awesome.
Is it when they like think they got like Molly or some sort of pill? Oh, they can't open the pill.
It was really good.
But it's fun. You know, it's a tone, but it's not for everybody, everything, all of that. So
I like things to be realistic though, in the most like true way to the art. So it's like that was my only hang up about the MCU is it didn't feel like I don't know. That's why I like the DC movies so much.
Interesting. And well, I agree with you to the degree that I like the real world, and that's why like I loved Iron Man. The first Iron Man.
But I wish he would have said fuck a bunch of times. I mean, obviously we can't have that, but...
True, but in terms of like the world is like, I recognize the world and I recognize this guy, and it's the same thing that I have with Batman. He's rich. There's the suspense in this belief it's okay. You know, he's rich. He invested in all these toys. He can make that. That's the only abnormal thing in the world. Right now, the quantum mania and all of this stuff is just insanity. Oh, and in Endgame doesn't Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man makes a time machine. Right. He just goes, I figured it out. And he figures it out really quick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like he didn't spend 5 years trying to figure it out, which kind of would have been cool if they were like, I've been working on this the whole time.
I feel like that's why I think people who care about the mechanics of time traveling, they're never gonna be on board with this. Yeah. And that's why I think they said, fuck it, you know, we're gonna do it very quick. Yeah. It's gonna be so much fun that's all we care. You know, we're gonna divide in teams. We're gonna go to 3 moments that are so fun.
Very Ant-Man like, the heist of it all.
Yeah, and it had that kind of sense of humor, you know. And I love going back to New York and seeing the first movie again from that perspective.
So cool.
And then going to Ultron and also the plans failing, so then they have to go to the past and Iron Man
gets 70s and
they get to see his dad and
oh yeah, that was so good.
So they have all those very heartfelt moments, that I think if you put all the action together in this movie, it's only maybe 20% of the movie.
Which is good, because the other Avengers movies, it's like the action, like I'm someone who fast forwards through a lot of action scenes because I'm like, this is for kids.
Yeah.
Like I need to learn what's going on. Like I'll watch a minute of it, but I can't watch everything.
Because I thought Infinity Wars has way more action.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing about Infinity Wars that I thought was kind of brilliant at the time was showing a bad guy with a plan that is not a selfish plan. He's crazy, but he has a, because Ultron has kind of the same thing, right? Ultron wants is the idea of like peace for everybody, so let me destroy everything.
Yeah.
But it becomes so simplistic like that. With Thanos, it's like he has thought about it. He has saw his planet. He saw his planet died. Kind of like.
I don't like the way Thanos looks. He just looks like Josh Brolin.
I actually like him in the Josh Brolin version, meaning like, because if you see Thanos in all those little clips that you say in all those other movies, he doesn't look completely there. But with the Josh Brolin, I think he made it real for me.
I just wish he was like the bad guy in the Justice League. Like that's actually like scary to me. I'm like, this guy's like, that's like a scary alien. Like Thanos just looked like Barney's stepdad or something. Like I was just like,
I just feel like he's not as scary, especially in Infinity Wars, because we are with him and we're seeing his perspective.
Yeah,
he seems way more evil in Avengers Endgame because we're not with him. We're seeing him through Nebula and we're seeing him through the other characters.
I've just never been afraid of him. Which is weird. Like I've just never had this fear of Thanos. Which is like, that's why I really like the Zack Snyder Justice League. So I'm like, that shit like is like crazy. Like they just destroy everything. Like I like the wreckage in those movies, like the Spider-Man or the Superman versus
Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, when there's like that insane. Well, no,
you mean Man of Steel?
Yeah, Man of Steel when he like destroys Toronto or whatever.
Right. To me, like he's destroying like Metropolis.
Yeah, but when they destroy the city at the beginning of God, what is it? I think it's Civil War. There's like this big destruction.
I mean, in the Age of Ultron, they destroy Sokovia, right?
That's right. And it's like a huge deal to them.
It's a huge deal. And also it pays off later in terms of like, you guys are just destroying things and people don't like you. With Superman, I felt when I was seeing that fight and Man of Steel, when he is destroying half of the city and this is Superman and you don't see anyone die. And it's like, to me, it didn't make any sense. And that actually he kills the guy is like, it's wrong for a character that's supposed to be so moral.
I agree.
He's Superman.
Yeah,
why does he have to be tormented,
Yeah, he doesn't like murder Superman. And also he doesn't like fly through buildings to catch someone. He goes around.
Right.
Like, obviously.
So I think for me that getting him to a dark spot place, like in have a tormented soul didn't work for me. Yeah. Believing in, it's not my favorite character, like I said, Superman, but it's like, okay, at least he should be this symbol of peace and
of morality,
the best of everybody.
I saw Man of Steel at the ArcLight, and I went to Fatburger after. It doesn't exist anymore. Highland and Sunset. And it's the same Fatburger where Bobby's picture was on the wall for like 10 years because he did like the 1 pound challenge or something.
Of course he did.
I've been meaning to do that.
Oh, yeah.
You want to do that too.
Yeah, I wonder what they did. They probably just threw away his picture.
No, I saw it at the art light up. I mean, at
the Dome. Me too.
The Dome had this. I loved it, right? Like I have seen it in movies, and when I came here, I thought that was the most LA thing. You go to a theater, I saw the Hateful Eight.
Me too, at the Dome. I love the Dome.
And then when they closed down with the pandemic, I think was one of the
worst things to ever happen in Los Angeles.
That everything became an AMC, right? All the, the Chinese bought the whole.
Taylor Swift was at the movies last night at the Grove.
Yes.
I was so glad I don't live over there.
The second time in history they closed down the Grove.
It's insane.
That
Beyonce
movie
showed up.
Is gonna be like Endgame.
Yeah,
it's gonna. It's not a real movie, but it is a concert movie.
More people were like,
yes.
they didn't shut down the Grove for Endgame.
No. I think with horror, it's insanity.
Endgame reminded me of like Twilight when like everyone showed up at the theater. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it was one of those things. It reminded me of the things that I've seen in pictures, and when people talk about when Star Wars was released, you know,
Oh yeah,
the lines to get into the theater, everybody in costume.
that was like Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises in LA. People were super hyped.
Yeah, and to me that's so cool. It energizes, you know, being in a theater. I like to go to the theater like early mornings or whatever and be alone so nobody bothers me.
Yeah,
but the collective experience of watching a movie with everybody so invested is so awesome.
It burns in your memory. It gives the movie like some sort of depth that I've missed so much.
And it works with this movie, you know, the laughter works, the crying works, the everybody boos or claps at the same time, and it's okay. That's like a well-oiled machine, you know. The craft of it is really good. I
like and what's his name comes out? Chadwick Boseman is in this one.
Right. Yeah, because he resurrected.
Yeah.
They killed him in the other one. Which also is funny because they have those scripts, but that was before they did Black Panther, right? Or like just
That's
around.
Weird. I mean, I love Black Panther.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's just so like racist to me that like in the most poverty-stricken continent that Marvel's like, we'll give them a fantasy land where they're actually the most powerful continent. And I'm like, it just feels like,
interesting.
What?
I don't think that was their vision, because what happened with and especially with the movie, I think they did a really, it's one of my favorite movies of the MCU.
Black Panther.
Yeah, I'm blacking on the director right now.
You're blacking on it.
I'm blacking on the director. I'm blanking on the director.
Spike Lee.
No. Oh my God. Who's the director of this? He did
of course
Station, and he did
it's the one. Yeah, I saw this at Dark Light too, the one about the shooting in Oakland with Michael B. Jordan.
Right.
Yeah, it's that director.
Station, and then he did Creed.
Yes.
And
I love the Creed movies.
Ryan Coogler.
Yeah,
Ryan Coogler. And I think, funny anecdote, him and I won the same award. Him in the Latin America and my was like in the Hispanic category.
Yeah.
He was in the African American category.
Wow.
It was a DGA award for Best Short in 2012, and then he went to do Fruitvale Station, like Creed and all that.
Yeah.
I did Bad Friends. So, but
Bad Friends is awesome.
But he, I think what he did was bringing all of his concerns about his community into the superhero.
Yeah.
Really seamless, and he was able to talk about interesting things in a movie like that.
Oh, of course, but he didn't create Black Panther.
No,
the original
I
creation
think, like,
still feels a little weird to me.
No, I understand. I understand what you say. Like it's like with Barbie, right? Like you create the perfect blonde, and then people start rebelling, and then you have all the other Barbies.
I see, yeah.
And this,
I just always had that thought about Black Panther.
Yeah,
I'm like, thank you, white people
they have
in
the
Hollywood.
vibranium, and they have, they're so rich, and they're so advanced. But
Yeah,
they
it's
are
like
just
it's crazy
in a way.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite scene in Avengers Endgame.
Favorite scene.
Definitely not one with Nebula.
Not Nebula. Gosh. I honestly, the end with Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr., because it sets up the next one.
Yeah.
Because after this he goes to Europe.
Right.
And he's like really sad, and I just think that's it's very moving. It's very touching. I think I don't like characters ending and new ones taking over, but I just, like I've said before, I think Tom Holland is.
Yeah,
I think
he's an amazing actor.
But those Spider-Mans are just like, I think they're some of the best movies I've ever seen.
Cool.
What's your favorite scene?
I think my favorite scenes are the beginning, the setups of the characters.
Good,
the no action, and I enjoyed the time heist. I thought that the going back to New York was really fun, and the characters that go to New York and how they fail and they have to go back and all of that. I really enjoyed that.
The ending though kind of makes the movie for me.
Yes,
it really does.
I think that moment also because he's right. So it's set up in Infinity Stones that, in all the possibilities, there's only one in 10 million where they
14
win.
million.
14 million that they win, right? And so Doctor Strange gives up the stone to protect him. And then at this moment, you know, everybody's trying to take the glove from Thanos. And they look at each other, right? Kind of like a slow motion moment. And he does this, you know, telling him this is it. This is the one chance you are. And he knows that, you know, this is the moment. He has to sacrifice himself for the whole universe. Yeah. And he tricks Thanos because he doesn't need to take the glove. He just takes the stone. Yeah. And then that moment you see him and it's like, oh my God, you know what's going to happen because if he does it. So it's an emotional moment. I feel like it's insane because when I watch it again, I also felt the emotion, the sadness of it. I think that's plot-wise is perfect, and I think the character makes it so it lands.
Is that also because you have a daughter now?
Yeah, maybe. But I felt it the first time too. I think like I'm quickly. I like to lose myself in the movie and not bring it to my own life. Yeah. Unless it's something that is touching on something very specific. But yeah. And also then it's like when Gwyneth Paltrow, what's her character name?
Pepper.
Pepper.
Yeah, she comes and tells him, you know, you can rest now. You know, you finally got there. You did it. You saved everybody. We're safe. I think it's a great moment. And then when you see the ending, right, that kind of the coda to the movie, like you see every character that Tony Stark has touched.
Oh yeah,
you see them grow by kind of like movies, right?
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'll get too sad.
But that shot at the end with everybody there,
it was too sad for me.
That's incredible though to have all those actors. I just saw all those actors.
All those actors.
Wow,
in one shot.
Are they CGI'd?
No.
Or not CGI'd? Are they? They're not placed there.
No, I think.
Oh, they were all there.
I feel they are all there because it's one of those long takes. Meaning like there's no cuts in the camera. Right, the camera goes from character to character. And this is one thing that, for example, in the Age of Ultron with Joss Whedon, and even if I don't like the movie, there's images that I always remember. Yeah. In terms of the assembled characters, right? In the first one, they do the 360.
So I don't like those shots.
You don't like those shots? No, because it's very self-aware, or.
That, and also I want to feel like I'm there. I don't want to feel like I'm watching a movie.
Ah, interesting.
I want to. It's like
so. Then because this movie doesn't have those moments,
and I like that.
Like that, the iconic things where like it is a little more self-aware about it.
Yeah. So if they're walking, I want the camera to be like behind shoulder shot Hulk and them, and it's like footsteps, like the camera guy walking.
You don't want the slow motion of all of them.
I've never liked stuff like that.
In the frame. Interesting.
Yeah, because I don't like when theaters like get excited.
Yeah, I do. I'm
like, okay.
It's part of the thing, and I miss that.
You like that, so I don't like it. That's funny.
I miss those moments because in Age of Ultron, for example, at the very, very beginning,
I know
there's this slow motion of everybody gets into frame for a second. You know, it's like picture perfect. You know, like everybody's about to attack.
But that's not like realistic to me. I'm like,
oh, of course not.
But of course you know that. But to me, that's why I don't like it.
Right.
Like, they wouldn't all be perfect like that in war.
Yeah.
You know, someone would be stumbling in that moment.
Okay, so I think. Well, final thoughts on Endgame for me is like I think is the
if somebody hasn't seen this movie, which is got to be impossible.
Yeah,
why should they see it?
I feel you cannot watch this movie without the previous one. I think I consider them like a one longer movie. You won't understand. You have to watch both Infinity Stones and Endgame. Yeah. But I think it's the sum of like 10 years of really hard work and 22 movies. You were going to get the best probably, or for me, the best acting of the whole franchise. It's not as bloody. Sorry, it's not as plotty as the other movies. They have the time heist and all that is so fun, but it's more a character-driven piece, and it's very entertaining, and that's why like it's so interesting to see these characters do real life and have real emotions, and I think it's as big as it gets. You know, it's one of those things like pop culture-wise, you have to see Endgame.
It'll probably be another decade before we get something this big.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing these days. You know, I think the TVs may be big, and
I mean, I don't even think it'll be Marvel that creates an event like this in our lifetime. It could be a IP from Universal. Or
I mean, Paramount. Things are changing, and you guys mentioned Barbie, and I know Mattel is the whole purpose of
Is Barbie 2 already being written?
I'm assuming that they're gonna do a sequel, but
yeah,
Mattel has tons of toys, and they're gonna create a Mattel universe.
Yeah, they need to have people like Greta Gerwig though writing them.
Yeah. But you it was a huge success to do the Mario Bros movies, you know.
I liked it.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying, like, is this IP world where all these movies are
it's funny. It's so obvious, but it's like, is that maybe that's like the lasting impression that Marvel has done? Like maybe the TV shows are just for the, you know, super nerdy fans now, like Loki or whatever. Although I liked some of Loki, but the real impact in show business is, you know, Barbie, Super Mario Brothers, a Donkey Kong movie, whatever. But I gotta say, like in this post-COVID world where theaters shut down, streaming went through the roof even more.
Yeah,
I really think, like, ironically, this is good for movies now.
I agree 100%. Also, any sort of thing that brings people together to the theater, because like I said, like to me,
it creates community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always say that, you know, people had church. I had the movies when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And the sense of community. So, like, you know, I feel like the same way, like when I go to Spain, you go to church and they're pretty empty. So any event that will bring people to church, I think is pretty good.
The churches are empty in Spain?
I think so. You know, like it's one of those things that older people are going, but it's a pretty secular society. I feel like across Europe, there's this crisis of faith.
Well, there's definitely one in America too.
Right. I saw the statistic in the US. I think 25 or 30% of people declare themselves agnostic or atheist. So meaning, like, that's a lot of people.
Yes, they're watching Endgame on their phone during, you know, during the homily.
But to me, like, doing the cinema, like anything that would bring back all the people to the church, or in this case, the Church of Cinema, is good. And I think
I agree.
I think the streamers did a great job saving movies. I'm not against them, but the experience of watching in the theater is better, and there's nothing like that. And this is one of those events that if you were at the theater, you know, you felt the energy. It's like being at a Taylor Swift concert.
And then you remember the theater and the experience when you rewatch the movie, and so you're reliving this like fun night. And like that is something that I've lost with watching these things on my phone or iPad. It's like I remember seeing Django Unchained with my dad and brother. Like that was a huge deal for me.
Those experiences are incredible, and they
mold your life.
Engraved.
Yeah, they like mold your brain, your life, and they create what I feel like they really guide you. They create a map of what you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
Like if that makes me happy, I want to go try and be happy like that and make those things.
And that's also why the Spider-Man movie, the Away From Home, was it?
Yeah.
The last one?
No Way Home. I watched that in theaters.
That was the first post-COVID movie that brought people to the theaters.
Yeah.
So you have to, you know, like Spielberg told Tom Cruise, you save the movies with Top Gun. But before Top Gun was MCU, you know. And I feel it's the same type of movie. Top Gun will, something that we could talk about. Those big event movies, I think, bring people back to the theater, and therefore are worth it.
I was going to say, it was so big, the last Spider-Man, like me and like Esther and I went. Esther doesn't go to the movies a lot. Like we went to the Glendale, and we were like third row.
Absolutely.
Nerds.
Absolutely.
Freaking out.
I saw it in the IMAX theater, you know, so I
bought it. Like it's insane.
It's a good movie too. Anyway, so I don't think Endgame needs an endorsement from us. I think people have seen Endgame.
Yeah. This is our Endgame.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Can I tell you guys something?
Yeah. What's up, Skeleton? Post-credit sequence.
Yeah.
I love you guys 3000.
Oh. Very emotional moment.
Yeah.
You probably you fast forward.
I think I fast forward a little bit.
That's because at the beginning of the movie, you heard.
No, I remember that part.
So at the end, he left a message for his daughter in the video, which kind of echoes the what the dad gave him in the other Avengers movie.
I did think Jeremy Renner is the luckiest person in all of Hollywood for as long as Hollywood's been around. I mean, this guy. They give him the Bourne series, he flops it, and he just walks onto the Avengers set and he's just set for his life now.
And I don't think he's the most beloved character.
No.
But he falls upwards.
He does. He's so lucky that they casted this like 12 years ago, because it would have been like Issa Rae today.
Right. Yes, yes, absolutely.
Well, on that note.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Bye,
we
guys.
love you 3000, guys. Bye.
Bye.